All right, okay. So in Perek Chaf Aleph, the Alter Rebbe is speaking about Bittul Ha'Olemus. And he gives a mashal in Perek Chaf Aleph that when a person speaks, one word is batel lagabe the koyach hadibur, the eser koyches, the nefesh. And where he left off is that by Hashem, there's a pasuk loy machshavosei machshavosechem. That Hashem's his thoughts are not like our thoughts, his speech is not like our speech. It's not the same. So when we speak, the words leave us. But when Hashem speaks, nothing leaves him. It all remains inside. So when we call Hashem's words dibur, in a certain sense, it's only one part of dibur. It's the revelation part. But the separation part, it isn't. So it's not really dibur. It's a little bit like dibur, but it's not dibur. Now in Perek Chaf Beis, the Alter Rebbe says, well, wait a second, but we call it dibur. So let's take a look. Perek Chaf Beis, Rak. She'atayra dibra koloshim b'nei adam. The Torah speaks in the language of the people. The Torah speaks in a way that people should understand. Sometimes when the Torah uses a certain expression, which grammatically is not 100%, you say, well, that's how people speak. So because that's how people speak, that's the way the Torah speaks. So Torah dibra koloshim b'nei adam. Now, when we learn Torah, v'nikra b'Torah diburei shel mokim baruch hu b'shem dibur mamash. In the Torah, when it says Hashem spoke, it doesn't say Hashem revealed himself. It says literally Hashem spoke. So if the Torah says Hashem spoke, and it's using that expression, kidiburei shel adam. So it has to be that it's not stam, a very far comparison, but that they are similar. Lefisha be'emes, kach hu derech yeridas v'amshoches hachayes letachtonim. That's the way that we receive Hashem's energy. It is in the way of dibur. And we receive it b'tzimtzumim rabim va'atzumim minim miminim shoinim. There are many tzimtzumim and many different types of tzimtzumim. What's the Alter Rebbe saying? The tzimtzumim atzumim are that not only is the chayis lessened, but that the chayis, that it's like it's unknown. We don't even know who it's from. If you know where the magic button is, you can get the magic button. I don't know where the remote is. We couldn't find it. Well, on Daigus. And since you're the second, this is a gift. Okay, a gift. The covered Pesach. You'll wipe it off when you come home. Mitzvah Hashem. Okay, no. Nicht so kalt.
You give it to him.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see. Maybe someone else will. Okay. So, when you talk about tzimtzum, you could make something less and less, but then you could also make it different. Like we have the mashal in Perek Mem, the Alter Rebbe says you have a big window and a small window. But then you also have a curtain. If you have a little, a blinder, then the light on the other side is different. So the types of tzimtzumim are different. And so what happens? Lihibaris mehem bruim rabim minim shoinim. There are many different types of creations. V'chol kach govru v'otzmu hatzimtzumim. V'hester ponim ol yoinim. There are the tzimtzumim. Hashem hides himself. Yasher koyach.
Most of it.
Hashem hides himself so intensely. Ad sheyuchlu li'eshaves u'li'baros, until we even have the creation of dvarim tmeim u'klipis v'sitra achra. So let's.
This one said it. I have something like this. How do you say it?
Reset it. Turn it on. Mode. Choose the so it should be heat. It's gonna be circle sheet.
Circle.
Fine.
Okay, so another part. You learned this. You learned the perek. Chav Beis.
I think so. No, either left from pen. I think so.
Yeah. Oh, so you'll help us.
Last one we did is
Either Chaf Aleph or Chav Beis. In Perek Chaf Aleph, right? In Perek Chaf Aleph, the Alter Rebbe said that there are creations that have a feeling of independence. There are creations that feel like they're a Metzias on their own. In Perek Chav Beis, the Alter Rebbe speaks about creations who are klippah, a different level, not just to be a yesh, but to go against Hashem. And so, what's the difference? What's happening? The marshal is the same. The marshal is dibur, but the Alter Rebbe says he says that there are dvarim tmeim. What is there's dvarim tmeim, there's klippus, and there's siter achra. Three things. Tamei is like a spiritual, it's like a mystical thing. It's a makif. To be tamei is a mystical thing. Klippa is a shell. A shell hides the truth. Siter achra means a thing, an entity that gets its chayas from a different place. Meaning, existence that denies the Eibishter in its life. So you have grades. You have an entity that hides the elikus. You have an entity that denies the elikus. It's like, let's say you have a ganav. He puts something in his pocket in the store. He walks out. He makes believe that he didn't take anything. He's hiding something. But then you have someone, when he's confronted, someone says, did you take anything? And he denies it. It's a higher level of chutzpah. It's a bigger crime, let's say. In other words, you drive through the border. You didn't say anything. Then the guy says,
What do you got with you?
do you have something that you should declare that you're not declare? Right? Now, if you don't say something and you get caught, this is Gresser Atzoros. Right? So the difference between klippus and sitra achra, klippa hides elikus. It's a shell. Sitra achra denies elikus. It's a deeper klippa. So that what Alter Rebbe is saying in the broader message of the Perek, Alter Rebbe is saying like this. In Perek Chof Aleph, we said that Dibur is revelation. Hashem created the world. He created beings. So he showed us his intention. He spoke. That's what speaking is. In Perek Chav Beis, the Alter Rebbe is saying, when a person speaks, the Dibur leaves him. When Hashem spoke, for certain creations, it's as if the Dibur left him. So it also has that property of the Dibur leaving Hashem. Just another way of looking at this for a minute is that the Eibishter could reach everybody. In other words, from the Eibishter's perspective, no tzimtzum gets in the way. But from the Mekabel's perspective, there's a difference. It's like, for us, we're raised with a chinuch that the Eibishter is everything. It's not easy to live in that reality. You have to be edel, you have to be a ovid. There were chassidim that lived in that space. You have to daven in a special way. So So we strive to bring the Eibishter into our life more and more. So from our Gashmias perspective, we don't feel him, but we want to bring him into our life. And we say the fact that we don't see the Eibishter, it's a lie. In other words, the truth is the Eibishter. The Emes Havaya La'olam, there's only one truth. That's the Eibishter. We're not in tune. Let's get in tune. We're going to work on being in tune. That's our perspective. So the obstruction is not a real obstruction. But then when it comes to Klippe, when they turn around and say, Eibishter, I don't know what you're talking about. Ich hab sich allein gemacht. I don't need any help.
There's a difference when you don't want to do something or you try to justify that why you're not doing it.
Right, levels of...
You bring it down God, you're explaining God why he really meant this and he really meant that. It's just because you don't want to do it, so it's a lot easier or less guilt-free.
From the position of Klippe. Right, but the Alter Rebbe is saying that someone like Paroi, right, in other words, we look out in the world, there are real Klippes. So in Perach Chaf Aleph,
you don't have to be Jewish to have that.
Right. To deny. In Perach Chaf Aleph, the Alter Rebbe was speaking about Nivroim, there are creations. In Perach Chaf Beis, the Alter Rebbe is speaking about Klippe, about Dvarim Atmeim, in this progressively darker position. The Dvarim the Tmeim, Klippe is V'Sitra Achra. Ulekabel Chiyusam, when they receive their chayas, their kiyum. Their chayas means the chayas of their nefesh. Their kiyum means their physical existence, of their bodies. Where do they get it from? Midvar Hashem. The Ruach Piv. They get it from the Eibishter, Ruach Piv Yisbarech. But they get it behester ponim. The Yeridas Amadregis. It's hidden from them. It's concealed. V'lachein, says the Alter Rebbe, this is why the klippos are called elikim acherim. I think I remember hearing this from the Rebbe myself, that the Rebbe meant, when I was a kid, when we mentioned elikim acherim in a context of Avodah Zarah, we always said elikim. We never said a hey. Right? Even though it's Avodah Zarah, we never said with a hey. And I remember once the Rebbe saying, the Rebbe said in a Sikha, that that's the minhag. That even though it's Avodah Zarah, we don't say with a hey. Even though later, when I went to the Georgians, to the Gruziner, that was like, whenever they would always say with a hey, not by the, they were serious people, they were from people. And when they said Hashem's name, they would say Elikim. But when they referred to Avodah Zarah, like I started to see that there's a whole other cult, like a lot of other people, they say it with a hey. But Akoponim, so the klippos are called Elikim Acherim.
It's not a real. It's not a Elikim. It's a context of saying like a king or
right.
Or,
but either
or whatever,
right. Either so that we don't make a mistake, whatever the reasons are. So that's why the klippos are called elikim acherim. The Alter Rebbe is going to give two reasons. The first reason is mipnei sheyenikosam v'chayusam. Where do they get their life? Where does klippe get its life from? Of course, it has to get it from the Eibishter, but it gets it not mibechinas ponim, eino mibechinas ponim, ela mibechinas acharayim degdusha. We learned several times a Maimer in Likutei Torah where the Alter Rebbe speaks ba'arichas, the Ma'aseh with Rabbi Akiva, when he saw the city in Rome and there was such a tumult and so much money and so much whatever, bathhouses and what, and he said, if this is what they, I don't know, you want to send Mendel Valovic a message? Yeah. Oh, here he is. You want to give? Thank you. Im le'evrei ritzaynei kach, if the Eibishter did so much for the evrei ritzaynei, when he speaks about Birchas Ken and Yoyer, Yisa, Hashem, Panov, it's all about Panim, right? So, what is Pnimius? What is Panim? Panim means, I want you. In English we say, there's a means to an end, and then there's the end. If I, right? Let's here. I just want to move the bag away from the mic a minute. Okay. If I, right? Anything that I have it not because I want this. I have this because I want something else. I have an ulterior motive. Right? This is not the purpose of what I want. There's something else. That's what I want. When the Eibishter created the world, the Eibishter wants the world. The world is not a means. The Eibishter wants a world because he wants us to be able to be Mekayim mitzvahs. How are we going to do mitzvahs? We're going to actually do it with the world. So the world is part of Hashem's Ratzon. There's something that he wants should happen with it, so there's a deeper will. There's a chayfetz, there's an inner desire of what should happen with it. It's like you say, a person wants a car. They don't want the car that it should sit in the garage. No, I'm saying like a luxury car, right? Comfortable, he could drive around, he has a fancy car. Right? But it's not, it should sit in the garage. Right? He wants to enjoy it. Right? So the Eibishter created the world. That's part of Hashem's Ratzon. Hashem actually wanted that there should be a world. When it comes to klippos, Hashem didn't actually want the klippos. He created the klippos so that others will have bechira.
That's amazing.
In order, that's an ulterior motive. There's an agenda. You're not going to say Hashem is a user. He's not a user, he made it. Right? It's like, let's say, I don't know, I have to find Mesholim over here. Right? Let's say there's something, I'm going to do B'dikas Chometz. I know that I lost a piece of Chometz in a very hard place to reach. So on my 3D printer, I'm going to design a special clipper, tweezer, that I could go reach that spot and I could get it out. Wonderful, gewaldig, I could get, right? Open Daf Essen. Far Pesach, habt da rein. Nu, Shalom, mach sich heimisch. Everybody mach sich heimisch. I was giving you that as a plate. Open, you have a little bowls, okay? So, the Olam Shemtzach. So, right? So you're not interested. That's not your kavana. Your kavana isn't the clipper. The kavana is you should get out the chometz. So when the Eibishter created the world, when he created klipa, the Alter Rebbe is going to describe it that he created it for a different reason, and he writes it in very stark, very harsh. You know, he really didn't want this. Like he hates it. He hates it, mamish. Let's take a look how the Alter Rebbe describes it. He says, it's eino bechinas ponim, ella me bechinas acharayim de kedusha. What is acharayim de kedusha? It's like, really? Kedusha has an acharayim? What does that mean? He says, Ka'adam hanesin davar l'seinoi sheloi b'rtzainoi. Like somebody who gives something to his enemy against his will. He doesn't want to give it to him. When he gives it to him, I always think about this like when the kid gives the knas. When you tell the kid, say, I'm sorry. Say it like a mensch. Right? That's 9 times out of 10, that's what people have to say afterwards. I'm not going into whether in chinuch this is the right way or not, right? So shemashlich eloi kelachak seifei. It's like he throws it behind his back. Ki machzir panav mimenu. He doesn't want to look at him. Misinosei oisei. He hates him so much that he turns away. He doesn't look at him when he gives it to him. So when you read this first way that the Alter Rebbe describes the inyan of Acharayim, he doesn't say anything about ulterior motive. He doesn't say he created the Rishayim because he really wants something else. He's giving this really powerful description of someone who's giving hashpah mamish to an enemy. Right? Whatever. We have to give examples. You have a. It's like, I don't know if this was the case, but when the Frierdiker Rebbe came to America, and he came to legislate the Wednesday hour, so the Wednesday hour had to be for churches too. You have to allow all children of all religions to go and participate in a religious service if you want it to be for Jews too. So the rabbi legislated that the churches could go get their kids. That wasn't his intent. So that Kach Lamailo Bechinas Ponim. What is Ponim by the Eibishter? Ponim is Pnimius Haratzon Elyon. What the Eibishter actually wants. The end. V'cheftzei ho'amiti. The true desire. Asher chofetz Hashem la'ashpia chayes. The Eibishter wants to give life l'chol ha'korev elov misitra d'kedusha. Anything that's transparent, anything that acknowledges that the Eibishter created it, anything that acknowledges that Elikus is the only true existence, the Eibishter wants to be mashpia. In other words, we talk about layers. Rotzain ha'elyon is what created the world. The chayfetz, that's the intention of the way the world will be used. To be mekayim Torah mitzvahs. But when we speak about tumah, when we talk about sitra achra, the other side, meaning that's getting the chayes, like somebody who throws something behind his back, he tayavas Hashem asher soneh. It's abominable by the Eibishter. By the Eibishter, it's asher soneh. He hates it.
But they have problem. It's not like, bypass product.
He's going to say exactly. Ve'einoi mashpia lo chayes mit pnimius haratzon v'cheftzei amiti asher chofetz bo chas v'shalom. It's not that Hashem actually desires it. Ki'im keman deshodi basar kasvei l'seine shalei b'rtzeine, meaning rak kedei lehanish es harashoyim. So there's a plan. In order to set up bechira, you have to have them in the world. Kedei es harashoyim v'litn sachatev l'tzadikim, to reward those that are echfayin l'sitra achra. Right? We don't have to be politically correct about what we're saying, right? Just elikus is chayus, klipa is misa, right? Self-interest in the perverse form, self-interest in the instant gratification form is deadly. I don't mean enlightened self-interest. Right? A person says he's not gonna put away 50% of his paycheck, and then anyone who has that discipline, that's already enlightened self-interest. At the basis level, klipa doesn't make any cheshbonos. It's interested right now about pleasure right now. By the Eibishter, that is despicable. Why? Because that's death. V'zeh nikra b'chines acharayim d'ratzon ha'elyon. So, explanation number one. Now, you have to remember, what is, when we say in V'hoya im shamaya, when we say elikim acherim, we mean avodah zarah. What is elikim acherim? Elikim acherim is avodah zarah. How did the Alter Rebbe translate now elikim acherim? Not avodah zarah. The Alter Rebbe is applying avodah zarah. Is applying the lashon of the pasuk to all klippah. Anything tomei, anything klippah. What about it? Because being that it gets its chayas b'derech acherayim, it's getting the chayas from the Eibishter. Like the Eibishter doesn't really want to give it hashpah. The Eibishter is only giving it hashpah so that it should be feared. In other words, that there should be.
But it's a full hashpah because Hashem doesn't want it to be rigged in any way.
Right. Yeah, like we learned another mimer. He says in a mimer in Bereshis and Torah, where the Alter Rebbe says about the sheep with Yaakov, that a sheep that the Eibishter is compared to a sheep. That he gives us chayas, and we take the chayas and we do whatever we want with it, and he doesn't speak up. Ne'alamti dumia, we're silent. The Eibishter is silent. He doesn't say, "Hey, wait a second, you shouldn't be doing that." So the first reason why it's called the Elikim Acherim here, why all of Klippa is called the Elikim Acherim, is because it gets chayas mibechinas acharayim from behind the Eibishter's back. Now the Alter Rebbe continues, Ratzon ha'elyon, the Eibishter's will, meaning the pnimius of Hashem's will, the chayas that creates the world, b'bchinas ponin, hu makar hachayim, hamachaya es kol ha'elamus. Right? That's the world. What brought the world into existence? We spoke about this many, many times. That in Yiddishkeit, in Emunas Hashem, the fact that the world didn't exist and it came into existence from one being means that there had to be a will. In other words, when in science, when before there was a world, there had to be two types of matter in order for there to be friction. Otherwise, everything would stay in a static state. It's only because there's friction that you have an explosion. So there doesn't have to be a reason. The reason is because there were two existences. That's why there was an explosion. But in Yiddishkeit, in the faiths that there's one Eibishter, if there's one Eibishter, what causes one existence to make a change? That's only a desire. So Ratzon ha'elyon is the makar of the world. It's the makar achayim. It's hamachaya is kol ha'elamus. In other words, the elamus are not klippah. The elamus are not acherayim. The elamus are Ratzon ha'elyon. Ulefi she'einei sheira klal ala siter achre, being that the Ratzon ha'elyon is entirely absent from klippah. In other words, no, I don't want that.
Technically, the Oilamos are not a steer to the Eibishter.
No, the Eibishter wants that where Elikus is hidden, Oilam, Elashon Helam,
Right.
mitzvahs should be performed.
Right, but I'm not saying in that aspect. I'm saying from the physical world, the Eibishter. It's not a steer technically.
Right. In other words, it's not a mitzias to cause a stira.
It's the Eibishter.
Right.
You sound like statement. You sound like statement.
Like you're saying a statement. Not only V'gam bechines acharayim shel ratzon ha'elyon ein melubish b'teicha mamash ela makif ala mel maila. The chayas of the Eibishter is so far that even the agenda is hidden. Even the fact that it's getting a chayas mibchinas acharayim, it's like, let's say I walk into I go visit my kid in school, and I want to give him a treat. And I'm a mensch. I know I can't give it to him and not give it to everybody else. So I come in, I have 20 donuts. I'm going to give every kid a donut. I don't want to give only to my kid. But the kids who have a little seichel understand that I'm doing it because I want to give my kid. I mean, right? It's not a secret. Over here, it's so hidden that they don't even know. They have no idea. Lekach hi mokim hamisa ve'atuma hava Hashem yishmerenu. That's why it's called mokim hamisa. Why does the Alter Rebbe add? What do the words Hashem yishmerenu mean? Being that it could happen to Jews too. It's not exclusive only for other nations or. So the Alter Rebbe says Hashem yishmerenu. How could that be? How could it be if the Eibishter is giving them life, if the Eibishter is being mechaya them? By now you figured out, you learned Chav Beis already. Yeah. Zogen avort. Ki me'at miz'er, the little bit of chayis, of oir and chayis. Sheyeinek es mekabelas letecha. When you say me'at miz'er, we mean quantitatively and qualitatively. The tiny little bit of chayis that it receives, mibechinas acharayim de kedusha shelamayla, that's being passed behind the back. Says the Alter Rebbe, even that is bebechinas golus mamish beteicha. Even the little bit of chayis is in golus beseid golus hashchina hanal. What does golus mean? Al derech, the inyan of Gilgulim. Right? Al derech, the inyan of Gilgulim, that the neshama of a person goes into a cow. So it has no expression. It can't speak. No human properties will be able to be expressed in this person. It's like, let's say I meet a person and I want to talk to him about Chassidus. And I tell him, you love your job. You could also love the Eibishter. He says, I don't have a job. He says, I say, you love your family. You could love the Eibishter. He says, I don't have a family. So I'm like, you love to eat. There's love for the Eibishter. Oh, when I said that, I made a very big shift. Because love to eat, that's a base taiva. That's an ugly taiva. Love for family, love for your calling and work, those are noble things. In other words, they're already a step towards the love for the Eibishter. Because you're speaking to the nobility in the person, to his sense of purpose. But when you tell him you love to eat, what? That's not his sense of purpose. You're talking to his klippah. That's a departure. In Perek Chaf Aleph, the Alter Rebbe is saying the Eibishter is hidden in the world, so we have to find him. He made a mashal, but the mashal is noble. The mashal is talking to people's purpose. In Perek Chaf Beis, the Alter Rebbe is saying, you know what? There's things in the world that are so ugly. They're on such a low level. You can't talk to their ruchnius. The only thing you could talk to is grabkeit. That's how far it is. The little nitzot zeliki in them is v'chinas golus mamash b'seit golus hashchina anal. V'lachein nikra b'shem elikim acherim. That's another reason why it's called elikim acherim. Not what he said before, that it gets the chayis from the Eibishter like throwing behind its back. He says, no, it's mamish aveda zorah. These klippos are Avodah Zarah. Because it's kfira. Kfira be'achdusay shemalach malchei amlochem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They deny the true state of Elikus. That there's only the Eibishter.
That's the way the Klippa sees themselves? Or, because when we see the Klippa, we know that it's separate from it. Meaning that
Right, the way it sees itself. The Alter Rebbe is going to describe, let's say, 3 levels, 3 grades of denial. Right? One is, there's an Eibishter, there's other things too. Right? The other thing is, there's an Eibishter, but I made myself. I have my own power.
First is Eibishter who made me,
Right.
But I have my own.
First is there's an Eibishter, and there's a world.
Right.
There's an Eibishter, but I have my own power, my own source of power. The Eibishter, Taka, but I have my own source of power.
After he made me, I became independent.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
they don't say
The-
that I made me themselves.
We'll see how the Alter Rebbe, right. And then the third version is, there's no Eibishter. Complete denial. Right? So the Alter Rebbe is going to say, even the ones that, in other words, even if a person has gaiva means it's like, I was supervising a recess today. Kids were playing. And I was looking at one kid that was like, he's good, like he plays well. But he has all these advantages that other kids don't have. He's the tallest kid.
He's been in 3rd grade 4 times.
So and I'm thinking, right? And I'm thinking to myself, it's God given. Like, what's the Alter Rebbe saying here? A person has gaiva, but the Eibishter gave it. Whatever you have, the Eibishter gave you. So it's having gaiva is saying, no, I'm taking credit. So he says, that's why it's called the Elokim Acherim. That's why it's mamash Avodah Zarah. It's a kfira in the achtos of the Eibishter that everything kimei achar she'er v'chayes degdusha. Hu bebchinas golus b'teicha, being that chayes. Now remember, the Alter Rebbe is emphasizing, is pushing in this perek that when we say that the Eibishter spoke, it means the second property of dibur, that the dibur leaves the one who speaks. The words are formed when they come out of the one who speaks. The creations feel like they came out of the Eibishter. They're not part of the Eibishter. Because it's b'chinas golus, eina b'teila klal, the existence, the davar gashmi, is not bottled l'gabe kedushas HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not bottled to the Eibishter. V'haderabbe, makbia atzma kenesher. It raises itself up like an eagle that's untouchable. Loimar ani ve'afsi oid. Ani, I am. Ve'afsi, other than me, outside of me, there's nothing. Right? There's efes, there's nothing oid outside of me. So in the pasuk, Bovel said this: "I'm the only kingdom." But the way we use it in Chassidus is that there's nothing else. That's it. Okay, Maimer, like Pari said, really the way the Alter Rebbe makes a composite. He takes 2 psukim and he combines it together to have a more severe meaning. Because Pari said, Yoerli, I made the Nile. He didn't say, I made myself. Vani asisini, I made myself. So the Alter Rebbe is using this pasuk as a continuation of Ani va'afsi, that there's nothing else. The worst form of klippa. That's why Chazal tell us, Shegasus aruach shkula kaveda zara mamish, that to be arrogant, boastful, is equal to Gemara and Soiter. We're going to be learning it soon, another Noch Havoch. Where does Avodah Zarah come from? What's the origin of Avodah Zarah? We learned the Rambam about Enosh, the development. So the root is Mashenech Shav L'Dover Bifnei Atzmei, that a person considers himself independent, Nifrad Mikdushas Shel Makim. Not that he considers himself a god, a mashpia, that they're davening to the sun because they think that the sun is being right? Is a source of life to the world. No, I'm my own Metzias, not a god, but my own Metzias. That's the root.
You're saying it starts off from being first you're separate from him, so therefore you're your own.
Right. So this is the three stages. I'm separate. There's a God other than him. There is no him. Yeah. The Gemara says, they call the Eibishter the God of gods. So yeah, there's an Eibishter, and he also gave power to other creations. Elo, shegam heim machshivim atzmom. They consider themselves liyesh. V'davar bifnei atzmei. Now let's remember that by Goyim, Shituf is not forbidden. It's not Avodah Zorah. The Avodah Zorah of Goyim is only if they deny the Eibishter. But for a Yid, and the Alter Rebbe is speaking about Beruch Nisan Yonim, Ubazeh, by having this idea, Mafridim es Atzmom, Miktus Shasei Shal Mokim Baruch Hu, they're separating themselves from Hashem's Kedusha. Because we already learned in Perek Vav that the Eibishter only dwells on something that's bottled to him. The Achtos of Hashem is only me'achar ki ein kedusha al yena shoira elo amasha bottle le'yizbarech kanal, like the Alter Rebbe said in Perek Vav, only something that's bottled to the Eibishter. Perek Yutes, the Alter Rebbe said it. V'lachein nikroyim, that's why Klippe is called Ture de Prude. Mountains of separated mountains. Because how do you see a peak? Because it's separate. In the earth, everything is flat, everything is neutralized. Everything looks the same. When you have a peak, he's sticking out, he's a Metzias. That's the Inyan. Mountains of separation in the Zohar. This thinking is a kfira be'achdusei ha'amitis, in the true unity of the Eibishter, that there's nothing else. The kula kamei kala choshiv ubatul be'emes le'yizbarech, that everything is truly bottled to the Eibishter. We're not a Metzias, and we're bottled to l'rtzoynei hamachayes kulam, that gives us all life. Umahava isa me'ayin liyash tomid. At every moment we're being brought into life. The Eibishter is giving us the feeling of independence too. So here in Perek Chav Beis, the Alter Rebbe really establishes, the Alter Rebbe separates and establishes what the source of klippe in the dibur of the Eibishter. So for us, when a person is in a refined state, in a serving Hashem state, dibur is it's a mashal. In Perek Chav Beis, in Perek Chav Aleph, the Alter Rebbe said it's like it's separate. Hu murgish v'nir. Look at the third line. Look at the third line in Perek Chav Aleph. The third line in Perek Chav Aleph is v'nire davar bifnei atzmai. It appears to be separate from Hashem. It isn't really, it appears to be. In Perek Chav Beis, the third line, what does he say? Lefi shebe'emes kachu. That it's actually like that. Because in Perek Chav Aleph, he's talking about a person who's serving Hashem. He's an Ovid, it only appears to be separate. Perek Chav Beis, he's talking about Klippe. Klippe is it's be'emes, separate from the Eibishter. Okay, we're going to be mafs. Thank you very much, Chevra. We're ending early. Shkoyach, Chevra.